Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I am going to be talking about why I am choosing less for my health. Lately, when I say I'm choosing less, I don't just mean noise or less obligation. I mean less in my body, like less plastic, less artificial dye, less fragrance, less seed oils, less things that make my body work harder than it needs to. Listen, finding these things out and starting to become aware of how all of these things are adding to issues that I am dealing with on a daily basis have been has been really informing and really has caused me to pause and think about everything. And therein lies the problem, right? It can become super overwhelming. It can become way too much. And next thing you know, you're like paralyzed. I can't go there because they have seed oils. I can't use that because it has plastic. And it's crazy. It's just a lot. It becomes almost unmanageable. But the older I get, the more I realize that my body is keeping receipts. So I better get right, get straight, and start to pay attention to what I'm putting in order to get the very, very best version of myself that I can put out. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about how all of these different changes that I have made have kind of led me to where I'm at and where I'm continuing to go, because this is, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. And just eliminating plastics from your life is a incredibly difficult feat, and it takes time and it takes money and it takes diligence. So to think that we could get all of this, resolved and unlock in 30 or so days is probably unreasonable and unrealistic, but it kind of goes to what I'm saying. And that is, once you realize all of the different things that you are putting into your body, it makes it so much easier to realize what you don't want to be putting into your body. So, for example, did you know that margarine contains plastic? Yes, it does. And yet, for years and years and years, I put it on my kids' toast all the time. No questions asked. Why? Because butter was never soft at the right time. It was more expensive. Margarine tastes better. It's saltier. It has all these yummy flavors that hit the taste buds. But we know now that all of that is garbage and additives that has nothing to do with butter. And we also know, last I checked, cows, they're not made of plastic. Therefore, there should be no plastic in butter. Just saying. I'm not going to get all extreme with you guys or anything. This is just a check-in. I want to really be clear about something. I'm not trying to live in a bubble. That's probably never going to happen. I'm not trying to be clean in a way that makes my life so small that I can't even enjoy it, or that makes me so paralyzed that I can't live. That's just not what I'm seeking. But it's just the knowledge that I am gaining has led me to start asking better questions. And that's what I want to urge you to do today. Like, ask yourself some of the questions. For me, awareness came way before any action. I started hearing things, and I know that I'm late to the party. I started hearing things about plastics. I started hearing things about seed oils, fragrances, dyes, additives, but I wasn't really paying attention. I just thought, oh, these are the tree huggers. These are those people who, want to spend their entire life picking apart every single part of their lives. And where's the joy in that? And so on and so forth. And then I started to really feel things, right? The more I tried to pay attention to what I was eating, the more frustrated I would become when I was still experiencing inflammation or, you know, irritation. Or for the first time in my life last year, I got a rash, and I've never been one who's prone to rashes. So I was like, what the hell is going on? Where's all of this coming from? And then I started paying a little bit closer attention. And if you've listened to the podcast, then you remember I started to make small switches. So I stopped using fragrance dryer sheets. I stopped using the little additive fragrance pebbles that you put in your laundry. And I started realizing that those little changes were helping certain things, like my husband's skin irritation. And, you know, again, I didn't have a rash anymore. And so it was little things like that that made me kind of wonder, well, gosh, what things am I not paying attention to that could change my life? And I started taking little by little, a little more action. And so I tend to be an all or nothing person. And when I want to change something, I go all in. But I was a little bit more intentional and I was smarter. I think I realized this one was bigger than I could contain. And if I just went balls to the wall, like I like to do, then this one was going to probably take over my life. And I'm kind of glad I did, because like I said, even just plastics has been a real effort. Not using baggies, not using, switching to silicone bags. And then that led to now I need a little bit of a different way to approach how I clean up at the end of the night. And so all of these things build on one another and really take effort if you're going to be successful. So little by little, we're doing the things that we wanted to do to change things. And for example, I decided at the first of the year that I was going to do a cookware change out, and I loved my stuff. I have all clad cookware. It was a very expensive full set of cookware. And it wasn't even that old, but I realized that it had little chips and nicks because it was, after all, nonstick cookware. And even though it was high quality, it still had its share of wear and tear from me not being aware and thoughtful of making sure that the flame didn't get too hot, or making sure that it didn't get rubbed up against something else that might scratch it when it was in the sink, or being lazy and throwing it in the dishwasher one time too many. Whatever the case may be, this stuff had damage, and it turns out, damage or not, it really isn't good for us at the end of the day, especially with the way I like to cook. I like to cook very much in the fashion that some professional kitchens operate, in that I like really high flames and flambeing and all of those sorts of things. And that's just not conducive to nonstick cookware. So all of that led me to realize that I needed to change out my cookware. And when I started to see what I was up against and realized that I wanted to buy small, intentional pieces and not necessarily just another full set, I realized, whoa, this could be quite an expensive endeavor, and you may want to take your time and be more provocative. You may want to try out one pan first, see if it serves your needs. And I'm so glad I did, because I ended up buying like a 3-quart saucepan, and I thought for sure I was going to need to buy a 4-quart saucepan. I don't. My 3-quart is big enough for everything that I need. And even with company, I have crock pots and I have cast iron Dutch ovens that can serve the purpose of large crowds. So why would I need to go out and spend another $200-300 on one saucepan when it turns out I don't need it? And being intentional and, stopping and thinking about things before I just jump actually paid off when it came to doing that. So if you're thinking of doing one thing, just do one thing. Get rid of dryer sheets, or, change out silicone baggies for your plastic baggies that you store your food in. Easy. Well, it's not easy. I would be lying. Anyway, I digress. The differences between like fear-based wellness and curiosity-based wellness is what's been a key for me. I'm not going to operate in fear, but I want to know better and do better. So I am kind of curious about things. Well, how come seed oils aren't, good for me? And so once I started to do my research and I realized that seed oils in my body for me, and it's now been proven true because I, did what my friend Jen suggested I do, and I use myself as a guinea pig. And it turns out that when I use seed oils and they build up in my system, it's like putting bad gasoline in my tank. I start to ache. I get inflamed. It disrupts my sleep. I get headaches. And honestly, it's just not worth it. It really is just not worth it. But that makes it a little harder to go out and eat now, doesn't it? So does that mean I never go out and eat? No, I'm going to go out and eat right as soon as I get done recording this podcast. But I know that I have to be intentional about the times that I put seed oils into my body, and I'm more careful. If I'm out eating and I have the option to eat seed oil free and still enjoy my meal, I'm going to do that, because at the end of the day, I'm the person who is going to end up paying for it. And so I don't want that anymore. But I'm not letting the fear like, oh my gosh, it could cause cancer. You better stop it immediately. And so then I never leave the house and I never have my favorite, tacos at the taco shop that use oil ever again. No, it doesn't mean that. I'm not reacting. I'm responding. I'm educating and informing myself, and I'm making small and intentional changes that are sustainable for me, that don't get me to the point where I'm so overwhelmed that I can't figure out what to do next. And so what I'm choosing less of is really, really simple. It's what we just talked about: seed oils, ultra processed foods. I read labels all the time. But now I'm looking at things differently when I read labels, right? So where I've also always learned, sorry guys, my mouth decided not to work for a second there, where I have always known that if you can't pronounce it, it's probably not something you want to put in your body. That's how I used to read a label, right? Or I was looking for how many carbs it had or how much sugar it had. Well, I still look at those things, but now I'm looking at how many dyes are in there. Does it say other additives? What the hell is another additive? That could be anything. I am paying attention to whether a peanut has canola oil in it. Why does a peanut have to have canola oil in it? It just makes no sense. So all of those things I started to pay attention to more as a result of, I'm curious. Why do I feel this way after eating? It wasn't about, oh my gosh, I ate the tacos, I've gained weight. It was, oh my gosh, I ate the tacos, I don't feel so great. That was not as rewarding as I thought it was going to be. So I still do it from time to time, but I try to be more careful, more intentional, and I try to make sure that I eat real clean around it so that it doesn't last forever. And then like we talked about, plastics and chemicals. I started noticing what my food was stored in. And one thing I immediately stopped doing was heating anything in plastic. Like, just if you're microwaving in plastic, please stop. Please, please, please stop. The issue with plastic isn't nearly as bad as it becomes when you add heat to the equation. So that's one thing you can do out really quickly. You can stop doing that, and that will make a big change. But I did not swap everything out quickly. I did it slowly. I started getting rid of my plastic little by little, and I replaced it with glass containers. And again, for me, it's not because I was afraid. It's because I don't want the exposure. It does not do well with my body. And so why would I do that when there's a simple, healthy, obvious solution? And again, dyes and fragrances, we covered that too. I told you how I switched out into wool dryer balls, and then I discovered I needed to add silicone dryer balls because the wool starts to come off on the darker clothes. So if you could solve that by using silicone dryer balls, and that will not leave, lint on your darker clothes, and it will still use no fragrances, no dyes, and no static. So it's more cost effective. It worked for me. I also switched to a cleaner detergent, and I've told you all about that as well. But you know what? I stopped having headaches. I stopped waking up with these weird little bumps on the side of my leg that could only have come from the delicious smelling beaded things I was throwing into the washer, right? Just because something smells good doesn't mean it's good for me. And I kind of discovered that just by paying attention. And so what changed for me when I chose less? Let me tell you. What surprised me wasn't that I was feeling deprivation. I expected, oh my gosh, I'm not doing seed oils anymore. I'm never going to enjoy a meal ever again. That wasn't it at all. It was relief. I feel lighter. I have less inflammation. When I eat healthy and I have good weeks, not only does the scale reward me immediately, my body is very responsive to healthy habits and healthy eating and building good habits upon good habits, etc. But I have more energy. I have better digestion. I'm literally clearer minded, and I'm in a better mood. And I realize that it's because my body is not fighting to stay okay. It's not fighting me on the daily basis to not get a headache or not feel swollen. And it was like a moment of realization for me, because what I thought was going to be a feeling of deprivation ended up being not restriction, but support. And that was like, that's pretty great. Like, my body actually likes this and I feel better. So I don't really miss not having the insert whatever thing it is. Would it be wonderful if my sheets smelled like gorgeous flowers every time I came to bed? Yeah, but not at the risk of a migraine 3 times a week. No. So that's an easy one for me. And honestly, these are only things that are happening for me. Your body is going to react differently to different things. And I urge you to do whatever is best for yourself. I'm not telling you what to eat, how to live. I'm just sharing what I've been noticing, because sometimes hearing someone else say it out loud gives us permission to pay attention and to notice it. And so remember, you don't have to do everything, and you don't have to do it all at once either. One swap, one question, one choice. And everybody can do that, right? Well, for me, choosing less right now is about reducing the noise so my body can do what it already knows how to do. And this is living on the verge for me these days. Listening, adjusting, choosing clarity over convenience. That one is not always easy, but I am doing it and it's paying off. So if you're curious, start there. Your body will tell you the rest. And I'll be back. Until next time, I'll be here living on the verge. Have a wonderful day, guys. Bye.